Uh, I am a third student, director of PD at QMI, and I'm going to be talking that. Um, for this to be an hour presentation, did 40 minutes. That probably took up 5 minutes. So we might be going through a bit quickly. Hopefully we'll get to the coding. If not, I believe you guys will get it anyway, so you can work with that data as well. But let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about the prerequisites, just kind of a couple packages to use this kind of data. The sources, we're going to talk about data types and then data set cleansing. And then we are going to get to actually using data, hopefully, if time permits. So let's talk about the prerequisites. So the prerequisite, you're going to need some packages to be data that I was using or that I intended to use. So pandas, NumPy, Seaborn, and Matplotlib, four pretty common packages. It's very likely that you'd have them installed, but just in case. And then with the data that we're going to use is a data set from Kaggle that I got, and it's about student alcohol consumption, if we can get any information out of that. Yeah. Good. Let's talk about what part of, I guess, data analysis this is. I would not, just because I've presented nothing yet, working with kind of understanding data operation and a tiny bit of modeling, if we but most of what that is pretty much these 2 points here. So let's talk about some data sources. Before we get into MySQL and MongoDB, let's first talk about databases. So in their most basic form, a database is usually some sort of structured or unstructured set of data stored on a computer or a computer server or something like that. They're usually managed by some sort of database management system. So that is kind of like MySQL and MongoDB that we'll get into in a bit. And it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's completely difficult to separate databases or data sets or distinguish the two. Databases are primarily so they're going to keep all of the data, and they can be completely massive. Like the big companies would have terabytes on terabytes of data. But a data set is something you use for analysis. So data sets, more used for analysis. They're a bit smaller. You want to work with them, whereas databases are more for storage in general. So let's get into MySQL. So as I said, databases use some sort of database management system. MySQL is the most popular one, especially for structured data. And so it's used to data in a database that like to store data, to manipulate data, to extract data from and the two main advantages of is the ability to access many records using a single command. The second one is that it eliminates the need for a specification of and that just kind of means that you need to specify what the access is, and it just works. Okay. Unstructured databases, on the other hand, I guess they call it no SQL. Obviously, don't use SQL. Instead, a very popular one is MongoDB. Now, MongoDB is a document-oriented database program used primarily for Android and web apps, so it covers a lot. And being classified as no SQL means that the database isn't modeled through the tabular relations between data the way SQL is. And tabular kind of means column and row, which is the way a lot of data is kept these days. Moving on to keys. Keys is an part of working with a database. If you're working with a company's database, you're likely not going to get access to the entire database because you probably don't have that clearance to, see all of that data, but you will need to access data sets. And so you're going to use keys data sets without completely getting full access to the database. So a key is a single group of attributes that allows easy access to each piece of data in a data set. Keys are especially important when working with relational data, as it takes the risk of accessing duplicate data out of your search and accessing, which is very important. Keys are also used in order to connect tables within a database. If you've ever worked with a hash table, um, uh, uh, algorithms and data structures class used before. Um, and yeah, what if you aren't given access to a database? That's what would happen. You get a key. Moving on to data types. So there's kind of two big types of data, or I guess two that I'll talk about. There's many more, but common ones. The first one being a text file. Almost all the data that I've ever worked with, that you will probably work with in classes, or you'll probably work with QMind, is stored in text files. Text files, it's a text file. I feel like I don't need to explain what a text file is, but the common ways that things are stored in text files, CSVs or TSVs. And so they are kind of their own type of file. A CSV stands for comma separated value. So that's what this guy looks like here. So here they have the heading right here. So the family name, given name, and probably some sort of work ID or something. Could be interesting. And then they're going to have these things separated by commas in kind of column row notation. This kind of file is going to be able to be opened in Excel. It's going to be, it's going to be able to be opened in Excel. It is read in column and row notation, but it isn't exactly in that notation. And so this is a very common type of file for data sets. A lot of CSVs in my life. You guys may have used some before as well. And then TSVs, pretty much the same idea. It's tab separated values. That's what easy to distinguish between the two when reading them in. And all these files that are previously mentioned are called flat files. So they file under the file. Another type of data that is very popular is image data. Data can either be stored in a single image or in a massive set of images. It can be stored in a single image, as you can kind of see here. So it's kind of stored in a matrix of numbers, at least this picture here. Has a corresponding number that tells you the exact color that is used, or I guess the shade. In grayscale, it's obviously 2D here, and what's the word? Color. In colored pictures have a more complex matrix, but it would be, I believe, 3D because of the RGB. And solution require more pixels and then require more memory, which is why I guess we'll get into minced in a second, but which is why this picture does not require a ton of memory, because it does not have a ton of pixels. It's pretty pixelated. Pictures are also common photo databases. You can think of your camera roll as a photo database, but usually photo databases aren't used for just looking back on your memory, for different motives. That kind of brings us to minced, which is this. So this is one of the, I believe, 70,000 pictures in minced. And so this is a 28 by 28 pictures, again, 70,000 pictures, handwritten numbers from 0 to 9. And so these numbers, or this data set, is a common machine learning, or as common machine learning uses uh, an AI how to distinguish different numbers from each other. So kind of as you can see here, the image is obviously of this 8, but then it gets broken down into these numbers. And this is how the AI will end up being able to read, is they're going to, be trained. I think it's 60,000 training, 10,000 testing. They're going to be, shoot, sorry. Um, yeah, to pick up where numbers are and what numbers correspond to what kind of matrix. And that's kind of how MINST is used. Another photo data set that's very popular and that probably you guys have interacted is prove that you're not a computer test that you have to do sometimes. That a data set to teach AI cars, I believe, how to recognize or crosswalks or taxis or whatever you are kind of supplied with to do. And so that, I guess, you're training an AI without even knowing it. Anyways, that's a bit of a tangent. Moving on to talk about some data types. So there's types of data, numerical. There's different words for them, quantitative and qualitative, but the graphic here, categorical, and then numerical categorical has 2 subtypes as well. So let's start off with categorical. Categorical data is made up of words differentiated through ordinal order or ordinal or ordered. So data that has a hierarchy. So pain severity, rating, and mood. Quizzes that ask you for never to always. Things that haven't but are worded. That's ordinal. Sorry. Nominal data is data with no hierarchy. So again, eye color, dog breed, and blood type. You can't really say that one is bigger or higher than the other. It's just kind of data. So you can talk about frequent, how many people have what certain eye color, or how many people have pit bulls versus German Shepherd. But things, standard deviation really mean anything. It adds no value. Whereas ordinal, you can talk about some of those. Numerical is made up of continuous and discrete. It's pretty self-explanatory. Numerical is number. It'd be quantitative data. So all of these examples are obviously numerical. You can talk about your age, the weight, number of children. Discrete and continuous are the two things that, I guess, the two subcategories. So continuous, age is continuous. You can have these 7 and 24 days, or you can be 22 and 300 days, or something. Make it up into spot pieces. Whereas discrete, shoe size and number of children, you can't have 3.5 kids. You can have a shoe size of 7.5, but that's as low as it goes. You can't 5. Whereas your weight could be, pound, 3, 4, 6 pounds. So it's kind of yeah. And then analyzing these types of data, or being able to data. Um, so basically the nominal, ordinal, continuous. This is quantitative and qualitative, but as I said, that's just a stand-in for two. So nominal data and frequency distribution, you guess this. Median, mean wouldn't mean anything either, and rate of variation, again, does not mean anything because it just would not give you any information about the data that you don't already have. Ordinal, the median and percentiles, you can or it can tell you something because it has some sort of hierarchy. But the standard deviations of coefficient don't. They aren't computable. Discrete, you can calculate everything except for ratios and coefficient of variation. Are not quantities, like you can't break them down further. And then obviously continuous is the most manipulatable, manipulatable data because you can access everything with continuous data. A bit about dataset cleaning. Dataset cleaning is a very important part of datasets. You need to clean your data so that you can actually analyze it and have good results, meaningful results, because it will work much better and will give you results. But this checklist of dataset cleaning is really up to you. This is just a general kind of process that I usually take. But again, sometimes I'll skip part 4, or sometimes I'll skip one of the parts in 1, or something like that. Like it really is up to you and up to the data that you're working on. With remote or irrelevant data. When you transfer, merge, or create data sets, a lot of the time you're gonna get duplicates. It's extremely likely it's just something that happens, but Python makes it really, really easy to clean up your data set from duplicates. I'll show you in a second. And then irrelevant data. This is something sometimes I skip. It's data that you're not going to be using is in the data set, but it give you any for your analysis. Show you what that means as well. Sometimes you can take it out if you're working a data set. It helps to declutter that data set by taking out the columns that won't provide you any or columns that provide pretty and again, that will be done in the data set that I work with. The second part is fixing structural errors. So that's strange names, typos, unwanted capitalization. It's a bit more difficult to those using duplicates, which is why you hope that whoever made the data set, or if you made the data set, that you didn't make too many errors. But there are ways of working. That's an important one. Filter unwanted. Once you kind of start plotting data, and really depending on, there is data that you need out. You may not, because it might prove something that you are thinking to be true, but you may want to take out one doesn't look at all like the others because it possibly is just inputted data. So to you, again, I said this a couple times now, but it's really based on your opinion if you think that this is an important piece of data, or if it's a thing, then you if you want to keep it in or keep it out. Um, and again, sometimes you won't notice that until you plot it. So it's very important to start working with data while you're cleaning it. Handling missing values. So there's three ways or three options you have to handle your missing data. Option one is to drop the entries with missing values. This is going to remove other attributes, not just the missing values. So it's not always ideal to be doing that. Input missing values with guesses or observational. And seems like it could really work out for you. If you plot data with that is made up, your findings won't really be sound. And so making up data just to fit your model doesn't exactly work very well. If it's just a project that you're working on or something fun you're doing, of course, that's completely fine. But if you're working doing real data analysis, you don't want to be just replacing. And then finally, is a bit more ambiguous, but you could just find some way to navigate out of the missing data. So if you're doing analysis, then you can just maybe not analyze that column, that row, or something like that. But I would say most often is with the missing values, and I will also show how to do that. And finally, validate and question your data. And the final part of data clip and of the data clip your data. Does your data make any sense? Can you find trends? Form your next theory? If not, is it because of data quality just because, there's no trends or there's nothing
All right. Okay. So
analyzable? If not, this
thank
part
you.
is
That's
completely up to you and up to
good
your judgment.
presentation. I'm really happy
It can be
to
done, it should be done,
take your insight
but it will come
and I'll use
after
that
you
right
kind of
now
start
to
working with your data. You need to
keep
visualize your
channel
data
checking
before you can
or maybe just say the message that you
validate it.
have. And
And
I
so
look
let's try it out.
forward to that
Let me make
presentation
sure I have enough
or
time.
go over some of the code,
We got
try and
10
install
minutes.
hardware,
Um,
and maybe install job failed.
right. Yeah, it's right there. But show you the data set first. So, this is the data set I chose to use. Is I believe a high school in Portugal, and it got about 300 when we analyze it. But it
Well,
has
I have
33
several questions. I
columns,
hope you enjoyed it.
um,
Feel free to
and
shoot me
it
a
kind of
thumbs
just
up if
the
you have any questions
school
after
they
this. If you're working through
go to, or
book after presentation,
which are two
please
different schools in
let me know.
Portugal. Sex
Yeah,
eight as an urban or rural. I'm not going to go through all of them,
hope this
but
wasn't
they talk
confusing
about the
and
mother's education, the father's education, job,
have a good rest of your day.
the reason they chose a school,
Other than that, anything else?
uh, support, if they have things like that. So I started with, and obviously we're going to import NumPy as NP. We're going to import pandas as PD, Seaborn as SNS, and Matplotlib as PLT. Those are the classic kind of signatures for these packages. So you can see here, but NumPy is for math, and processing, for visualization, and Matplotlib obviously is for plotting. So let's get this guy right. Good. Then we're going to read in the file. So I have student drinking CSV here. This is the file. So as I said, and it I guess we'll see here 396. So it has 396 data points here. So let's read this in.
And
Perfect.
we
And
we just choose any of that,
so
and then
this
automatically we just know whether
of making sure that we've read it incorrectly. I put 10. I believe if you put nothing, it gives you 5. So yeah, it gives you 5 here. You can put
and
20.
there's the name
It's really up to you, but it's just a good way if it
A
was
first name, A
loaded
makes it so
incorrectly.
I can't
And the whole
rationalize the jump between a
thing,
classic launcher
there
registry
is
in
a
terms of whether I
way
realize
to
that
make it
you
show
want to
the
target. But that's
dad
like
rows.
the questions are
I didn't do that because it just clutters up
way smarter than
your
they look.
workspace. You don't want to do that, but it is good to know that these have been, looks like it's been read in correctly. We can find out the number of entries using the length of DF. So 30 to 395 gives us 396 total,
Most of the
which is
questions
perfect.
today were from this
Or I
document.
guess no, sorry, 395 because it
Yeah,
doesn't count
that's an
this
example.
as a.
They go through programs that are real hardware and
So let's get a limbs here. So again, we have school, sex, age,
yeah.
address, family
Hope
size,
you enjoyed
parental
it.
status,
I'll sign off so you guys don't
as
forget
one
anything.
parent,
How's that?
or if it,
Enjoy
mother's
your break.
education, the jobs, the reason they a lot more. The important talk about in a second is the G13. So access piece of data, you can do at this location here. So just do df.location. Just chose a random entry of 246. So they go to it's a male, 17, urban, and then many more attributes. Just like the basics of accessing, reading in, using a tiny bit of data. But
You're still here, but I
before we start to
think
do
I need
anything with
more
our data, we should come
to
up
hear at
some
times, maybe.
sort of
Based on
reason
like
that we are dealing with this data.
taking a state
What knowledge do we want to gain from the data set?
statistical
I
tracking
came
components of the data
of
set.
does alcohol
So it is
grades?
in my
Does
data
alcohol
state,
affect
but
on
doesn't
grades?
like
And as this is an alcohol consumption,
yeah.
as this is an alcohol consumption data set, and are to all related. Stalk is they drink alcohol during the week, and Walk is weekend alcohol. And I believe actually we can even just look over here. Workday alcohol consumption. So Eric, it's from 1 to 5, but it's not the frequency of drinking. It's just 1 meaning very low and 5 meaning very high. So that if you were doing more analysis with this data, this would be something that you'd really want to focus on. But for now, we'll just live with it. But yeah, so Dalk, Welk again. And then sorry, yeah. So G1, G2, and are all the grades that they get. And I believe it's out of 20, so it's from and it's the 3 morning classes, possibly. Doesn't matter anyway, it's just the grades. And so we're gonna work with this, possibly other things, maybe not. So let's start out with step 1. Let's fix any duplicates or irrelevant data. Updating to work with, or it's find duplicates and get them out of there with Python. So all you do is df.do to make a data set, that's in the data frame. So here to see how long the list is, remove the duplicates. 0, a data set, so it's pretty solid data. It's data that would I would say the most it would need is duplicate data, or sorry, not duplicate, for our analysis. But what are some other pieces? We can use a correlation matrix to help determine that. A heat map from Seaborn, pretty popular plot. There we go. So the diagonals, because that is fully correlated, you get a correlation of. But besides that, the only real correlations come in the grade. Kind of Dalk and Walk. I mean, the most of a tiny bit with going, and then the others education. But besides that, there doesn't seem to be a ton of correlation, which means that has not a ton with the analysis that I'm. Technically, I really just keep the grades, the Dalkin. But as I said, back to cleaning, I'm gonna choose to keep it in. It's only 33, so I don't feel that I have a super cluttered data set with it. But we start to merge data that's kind of the same. So high correlation here. It's easier to work with one set of data or one piece of data than 3. So we can just end up taking the average of the grades and then compare that. So we're gonna get G1, change the column to equal the of the grades. And then I also want to alcohol so we're going to add Dalk and Wealth together because it just makes it here. And then we're going to the columns G2, G3, and Dalk because we don't need that information anymore. We've already added it to G. Do that. And then D columns equals drop calls. So this right here, you want to have in place true and axis 1 is going to drop all of these columns. That I'm about to over time, and I have not. Where was this in? Okay. I'm end this. I guess I'll go right till 210. So I was kind of just saying I could get rid of some more data I find irrelevant since there's only 30 attributes. And I don't process it in this workbook, but it could be used for that if you wanted to do a bit more work. So this, I can give you a couple examples. Oh yeah, okay. So this is pretty much just me saying, this is a popular Kaggle data set. You can be pretty sure the data is safe. Examples of things that I won't do, but that I wanted to show if you wanted to use different pandas cleaning techniques. Yes. So we'll go through this super quickly. This is just drop NA. Drop NA is like NaN values, not a number. Then this will drop it easily. You can drop all of them or column that has an NA in it. You can drop the full column. Some people, if you've got like 300 conduct, wanted to do that. This Yeah. Again, sorry, I'm over time already. The final, this here shows weekly alcohol consumption versus average grades of students. It doesn't have or any effect on the grades. But I kind of, the analysis in here. Yeah, okay. About the start. How do I unshare my screen? All right, thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day.